Hello, Jacob here from Blendoogle, and we will be doing a quick tutorial on how to bake images and apply them to your mesh. So, starting in, I've changed my default scene a little bit. So things you need to watch out for is make sure this is on Cycles render rather than Blender render. And you want to that's pretty much it. So we're going to add a cube. Yours will probably already be there, but to add objects, you want to hit Shift A, Mesh, Cube. I'm gonna move this up by pressing G and then Z, then 1.01 and enter. Now I'm going to add a plane underneath it by hitting Shift A, plane, and I want to scale it up, so I'm going to hit S, 6, and then enter. So we already have our meshes, and now what we're going to do is we need to give them a texture, a material. So I'm going to hit New, and we'll just keep the default white. Our next step that we want to do is add lighting. So Shift A, lamp, sun. Move that up on the Z axis. Move it over a little bit. To rotate it, press R, and that's good enough. So now we want to UV unwrap it. In order to do that, we have to press Tab, press A to make sure everything is selected, UV unwrap. Now we want to press U again and hit Smart UV Project, and I'll tell you why we want to do that later. And let's do the same for the plane. Now for the plane, we don't need to Smart UV Project it because it only has one face that we need to deal with. So that's fine as is. Now we'll click this little menu and go to compositing. Let's click on the plane, make sure we have material selected, hit Shift A to add a node, and search image texture. And down here we want to make a new image for the image texture. So we'll hit New. Let's call this one Cube. The default size is fine. So let's hit OK. And why we unwrapped it was so that everything fits nicely on this image. If we didn't unwrap it, then unwrap and project it, then it would just be one big cube and all the faces would get mixed up and it would just be bad. Let's do the same for the plane real quick. Shift A, texture. Let's add a new image. Call this one plane. Alright. Now let's click on this, select plane, and turn the compression. We don't need to touch compression and stuff. That's for a later tutorial. Now go down to this little menu under the render tab and hit bake. Actually, for the tutorial sake, I'll do it at a lower quality. I'll go to sampling, turn the render down to 10. Alright, now let's hit bake. So while this is rendering, I'll tell you what's going on. So I made a website for Blender tutorials, and this is pretty much a test tutorial to see how everything goes. It's really unprofessional, and it probably isn't that interesting to watch, but let's carry on. Alright, so now what we want to do is take the color from the image texture and plug it into the diffuse. So now when we go to material, there's the shadow. Rather than having to go into rendered and have it load the shadows every time we move, it just right away has the shadow there, which is pretty neat. Now let's do the same for our cube. Select cube and hit bake. Notice how this one is taking a little bit longer because it has more geometry to it. Rather than just one face, it has 6. Alright, now that that's done, drag the color into the diffuse, and that has shading too. Now you may be asking, what is the purpose? Why do I want to do this? Well, it makes everything much faster. Say if you were to do a complicated scene that would normally take hours and hours to render, you can pre-bake the images as you go, then go into settings and actually, sorry about that, go into Jesus Christ, go into light paths and turn everything off. Shadows included. Set the resolution up all the way just so the render's a nice big image. And hit render. Oh, we didn't add a camera. Your default scene will have a camera, but I forgot to add mine. To add a camera, you want to hit Shift A, camera, and to move it around, I'm gonna hit 0 on my number pad, N, lock camera to view. So I could just scroll out, get it all set up nice. Go to ray visibility, turn off everything except for diffuse and camera. Just to further speed up rendering times, hit render. And look how fast that... Oh! Another silly mistake I made. Delete the shading, because if we don't delete the shading, then it will be adding the shadow on the shadows, and everything would look unnaturally dark. So now that I fixed that, hit render. Now, this is turning out a little dark, but quick fix for that, that shouldn't speed up render times at all, would to just go to, here, let's just get that a nice big view. Go to world, use nodes, turn the strength up. So there we go. I'll hit render. Now there you go. Pretty quick, pretty cool. And until next time.